A.I. stands for artificial insemination. I know you know all that. I'm going to just introduce the two experts here. This is Amanda Small. She's a extension educator. We won't say here, but I hear very good things about you, but I don't want to destroy your reputation. And this is Chance. And Chance, what I like about Chance is he came here with a good background in horticulture. He's been very supportive of us as master gardeners, and it appears like he's a nice man. I don't know what he's like underneath. I'll get the hell out of here. Okay, you're on.
So I'll let Amanda start, but we're recording this so that we can show it to people that weren't able to make it. So just so everybody knows. But I'm going to turn off the lights and Amanda will start.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the Wyoming sheep, goat, and cattle A.I. days that we're planning for 2022. But to give a little bit of background, we have some pictures and stuff of what we've done and where this project came from. Let's see if it'll go here. So last year was the first year that we have done sheep and goat A.I. in Fremont County, and we had several participants. It was we mostly aimed it towards 4-H youth, but this year we're thinking on opening it up a little bit. So last year, these are some pictures of kids going through the process. We had 4-H youth actually giving the shots and cleaning the wool off their tummies. Then this gentleman here, Glenn, came and he actually did the A.I. for us. So A.I. in sheep and goats is a surgical procedure, and so a little more difficult than cattle. Let's see here. So here's some more just pictures of kids getting hands-on experience of doing the process. We also had CWC's ag class come down and they helped us out. It takes about 10 people to make the sheep A.I. process go really fast and really smooth. And with 10 people, you can get 30 sheep done in less than an hour. So everybody has their stations, everybody does a job, and you can just kind of whip them through. Do you guys have any questions about sheep A.I. so far? It's good. Okay. So this is how these are approximate numbers because I haven't heard back from everybody that we that A.I. But so we did a total of 29 sheep and goats. 4 of those were goats, the rest were sheep, and we did 13 were used frozen semen. The other 16 did fresh semen. So you have the option of doing either or. The cost on the frozen semen is typically quite a bit more than the fresh jump, but you can really get specific traits that you're wanting out of the animals. So like if you're wanting to improve wool or get something that's more clubby, the frozen semen is typically the better option. So we came up with, the pre-numbers were 76% breed up out of the 29 ewes. We had 22 that actually were bred. I don't know how many lambs we got out of that. So then this year we have decided to add to our sheep and goat A.I., cattle A.I. And so Chance is going to come help us. And what we're talking about is specifically trying to open up the opportunities to more youth and more people who are on a smaller scale or people who are wanting to really change their traits in one way or another. So Chance, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so one of the things that I've been able to, or that I've done is teach these full-blown cattle A.I. schools. And they're typically 3 or 4 days long. We actually certify and go through the whole process and the benefits of A.I. and everything. And the cattle side of things is a lot easier to train somebody than the goat and sheep thing. But throughout my time as an extension person and doing this A.I. thing, I've helped a lot of people, a lot of youth, a lot of producers with this artificial insemination for various reasons. One is that it's, just having a bull, especially, it seems like I do a lot of dairy cows. We used to have a lot of dairies in Fremont County, but we don't anymore. But there's more and more people that have this kind of this dairy cow in their backyard, and they need to get her bred in order to get milk, get calves, and there's a shortage of dairy bulls around here nowadays. So AI is a great way to do that. We can use sexed semen and ensure that we're gonna, if she's pregnant, we're gonna get a heifer calf out of it. So this is actually one of Amanda's dairy cows that we AI'd and got a little heifer calf out of. And this girl up here helped her get started in the beef industry with, she's got a few Hereford heifers, that's what she started with, and she wants to have a seed stock Hereford herd, and we AI'd her heifers to this, and AI in heifers has a lot of advantages because we can use cavities, sires, and things like that to make sure that you know, that calf is born easily and without problems. And I help a lot of people with club calf projects, you know, AI and cows to, you know, clubby bulls and getting show prospects out. So there's a lot of reasons, whether it's entry into the industry, you know, backyard, you know, producing your own food or milk or things like that, or show prospects. There's a lot of reasons why AI can benefit people, whether we're talking cattle, sheep, or goats. So the idea of this project of having these days is that we're going to, instead of me going to every single little place, we're going to synchronize everything to come into heat at the same time and bring them together in a couple locations. So last year when we did the sheep and goat AI, we had the tech come in from Utah, right?
Yep, Utah.
And we had them go through the whole process. You know, we start a month and a half ahead of time and we talk about why we want an AI, the benefits of genetics, the benefits of timing of breeding and calving and lambing, and then we go through the process of giving them shots and getting them set up to breed. And then everything we talk about and we go through so they understand when breeding day comes around what we're doing and why we're doing it. So we set the one day last year to breed everything in Fremont County, and this year we're going to have one day in Riverton that we're going to get the sheep and goats together, and then one day in Gillette that we're going to get all the sheep and goats together. We're going to do the same thing with cattle. So ahead of time, we're going to make these digital Zoom sessions where we have discussion, they can ask questions, and we get them all set up. And then on June 14th, we'll breed everything, all the cattle in Gillette, and on June 15th, we're going to breed everything in Riverton. And this will set up calving dates, you know, on the cattle side for, you know, March calving. And we know that people around the state calve at different times, so we try to pick kind of a, you know, right in the middle, where it's not too early, not too late, kind of right in the middle, and hopefully it'll work for a fair amount of people around the state. And, you know, maybe some people will want to do this, and it'll, you know, they wouldn't otherwise without this opportunity to kind of get on and learn about it. And by doing this, I think that we have the opportunity to change a lot of the genetics in animals throughout Wyoming, and we have an opportunity to educate a lot of kids and producers that want to be part of the industry or improve on what they already have.
Yeah, so the only thing I would add is that the sheep AI dates, it'll be sometime, it has to be kind of fluid with the gentleman that comes from Utah. And so he's confirmed that he would be here between the 22nd and 26th. And we'll narrow it down as he's building his schedule. So this gentleman travels all over the western United States AIing. So we kind of have to be flexible until we get closer. That does have the lambs being born in January, which is early for some folks, or a lot of folks.
Good for market lambs.
But yeah, but for the 4-H kids, yeah, that's when they kind of.
A long-term goal for this that Amanda and I have talked about is to become trained and have the ability someday possibly for us to be able to also AI the goats and sheep ourselves. So that comes with a pretty big upfront cost for the equipment and training to do that. And it's just like anything else, you've got to get practice. So we've got to figure out ways to really master it. But that's the idea for the cattle AI side of things. I'd be doing the breeding part of it. One thing that we talk a lot about in our AI schools for cattle, and that we're going to focus on in sheep and goats also, is the nutrition side of things. Because if we don't have them set up nutritionally and in good condition leading up to breeding, then this whole thing, you know, we're setting ourselves up for failure. So we're going to focus on that, and then trying to think of what else. I think that's
Yeah, I guess I would put it back to you guys and see if you have any questions.
So I have a couple questions. So, like my cows will not be ready by that date because they're already kind of in the process. But can you take the class and not bring cows?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And we can totally set up, you know, I'm still doing, you know, consultations with people on their own. This is just a chance for, you know, people to get together. So absolutely, I would say take it, and then we'll make plans to get them AI later on.
Okay. And then the next question is, will there be palpitation too? So like, or just the breeding part, so you can check that they're actually bred later?
We haven't necessarily talked about that, but I feel like that would be something we could easily add.
So a lot of the kids that, you know, for the cattle side of things, a lot of the kids would want to be in like a commercial cow contest, or would want to have their heifers bred by fair, right? So, yeah, that's something that, you know, if we AI on these dates for Fremont County Fair, that'd be about 45 days bred, which, you know, you'll be able to tell, but we haven't talked about Craig checking. Maybe that's a great follow-up, though.
It would be a good follow-up.
I thought they Craig checked the entries for some of those
They
classes,
do.
don't they?
At fair, they do.
Yeah.
And for the phase 1, they have to be bred.
Yeah.
Right. So that was my next question is, the percentage on AI from what I know in the past isn't super high. Is that, do you know what the percentage is for taking, you know, success?
So typically, we can expect between 60 and 65%. If we have good response to the synchronization, cattle are in good shape. Sometimes we can get a little higher. You know, if we're just breeding a few at a time, we can really watch the heats and we can do a little better sometimes. But yeah, you're right. It's not as good as the bull. And the downside to doing this breeding date here is that we really only have one chance to get her bred.
For heifer, she wouldn't have a second chance to get it for fair. So maybe just look at the bull.
Yeah.
Maybe
But if so we definitely have talked about this date, and we know it's imperfect. If we moved it back, though, then that would put a lot of people calving in February, and for a lot of people in the state, that's early.
Right.
So.
What can you tell us more about the sheep AI? Like how much it would cost to bring my own sheep and goats? How much would it cost for me to come and learn without my own stock?
So to come and
Some more
learn, it
details?
wouldn't cost you anything.
Okay.
We're not planning on charging for these classes or anything.
Okay.
So the cost of sheep AI is very dependent on what you choose. So if you choose a fresh jump, they run about $100 a ewe for the semen, and then the Glenn charges an extra, I think it was $50 a head to actually do the AI part of them. But he also brings a lot of stuff. So I would say the cheapest that we had I could get off last year was $100. Well, no, it would have been like $300 for a ewe. By the time he bought semen, but he bought frozen semen, so he paid $200 for his frozen semen, and then Glenn.
How many do you breed with the semen?
Well, so if you buy frozen semen, that's enough for one.
Yeah.
And then, but if you do the fresh jump, he can do, 30, 50, however. And so it usually figures out to be about $100 for the fresh jump.
Okay, and that's using his rams, his
Nope.
goat bucks, or
So
our own?
we would, as a fresh jump, what we would do is we would try to find a ram that fit people's needs. So if we have a lot of 4-H kids who want club lambs, we would try to find a club ram. If we had a lot of people who were looking for a finer wool breed, we would try to find a fine wool breed ram and do it that way. So, I mean, we could potentially, if we have enough people, have 2 different fresh jumps available, depending on what we have for producers and people wanting to AI.
And the concession rates with fresh semen are higher
Yeah,
than the frozen semen, right?
they're supposed to be. So, go ahead.
Since I missed the first part of the class, the fresh jump is like, so they're taking fresh semen?
Yep.
And then,
And just
AIing
this.
right at that time?
So, depending on where we get the fresh jump from, so Glenn has some stuff to stabilize the semen for 24 hours.
Okay.
So we could bring it in from out a relatively close distance, but we could still get it here.
And so does that, then, it's not frozen then?
Mm-mm, no.
So what temperature does that have to be at to get?
I'm not 100% sure on that. So, Glenn has just an additive that they add to it to stabilize it, and then they cool it.
And they can do that with goats too?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, but I would say an average with semen, you're probably going to be setting at about 250
Okay.
for a fresh jump bottom.
And the classes, does he bring rams and bucks to teach us collection or show us collection?
So if we can actually get the ram, depending on who we're getting the ram from, sometimes they'll let us bring them in, and he'll collect right there for people to watch.
Okay.
So, but sometimes, and we experienced this last year, is sometimes the rams, when you get a bunch of people around, they don't want to do their job, and so
I
you
have
know,
one that wouldn't complain. But anyway,
So that's the hard thing about the fresh jump is if we have a lot of people,
Yeah.
we're trying to find something that everybody fits everybody's needs and wants.
oh yeah.
So
So will there be like a sign up for this class, or how will we know it's coming?
yep, there will be a sign up. We're working on the promotional stuff right now. So I would say within the next couple weeks to a month, we'll have information
So
out
it's
to
not
sign up.
the extension office
Yep.
or something?
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about starting classes for the cattle, right, in like April.
Right. Yep.
And then basically we'll have three or four classes between April and our breed date in mid-June. And then with the sheep and goats, our breed date is that April or August 22nd, so we're thinking about starting early July.
Does your nutrition classes, do they include things like recommended parasite control schedule to also get the girls ready?
On the cattle side of things, I haven't talked to sheep.
For me, it would be sheep and goats.
I don't know, did you want to talk about that?
He didn't talk about that, but that is something that that
Personally, I'd recommend including it.
yeah, I mean, I think for any animal, like if you're not up to, if you have a lot of worms and parasites and other things, I mean, then their nutrition isn't really maximized anyway.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that kind of fits right into that.
Definitely.
I just wondering if it was included. I might be able to learn something I don't already know.
It's a good thought.
Yeah. Any other questions? So some of you came in late, and we can push pause and go back.
Yeah,
So
no,
going in.